Usually I don't deviate with these vinyl collection parts and I go right into talking about the vinyl, but guys, gotta bring this up really quick. Got a new receiver for my turntable, and thanks to that I've been able to hook up these new JBL speakers that I got, and damn, the quality is phenomenal. I know in a video I did of a Q&A maybe like a year ago, I told you guys I lost my virginity in my teenage years. Man, let me tell you, that is a fucking lie ever since listening to these things, because I've been a virgin up until yesterday, because these speakers fuck. Wow, this is brighter than usual, but yes, right back to it. Vinyl collection part 24 we are on. Believe it or not, this is actually the halfway point within my vinyl collection, which is a rough estimate, but I'm pretty sure it's accurate. Mainly because I own 3 of these shelves right here. Each one contains 8 squares within it, and I have filled up 16 of these 24 squares, and right now we just cleared out the 8th square. So, you know, again, that's just a rough estimate, but yes, this is supposedly the halfway point within my vinyl collection, unless I just start buying more records past the letter J, which, let's be real, it's more than likely going to happen. But yeah, other than that, what's playing in the background is a band I really need to start talking more about, mainly because they might be doing a new album very soon, which I'm very hyped for, and it will be The Berserker with their album Animosity. One of the first ever extreme metal bands that I discovered on accident, and it's like a blend of like industrial death grind, that it's basically like the death metal version of Annihilus Rock, and shit, this stuff kills, and it's one of my personal favorites within the whole realm of grindcore. Part 24 is going to start off with the last band within my vinyl collection that starts with the letter J, then we proceed onwards to the K's within my collection. So starting it off is going to be the mighty Judas Priest with their 1986 classic Turbo. For a lot of Judas Priest fans, they would cite this as their worst album because they really kind of like toned down their sound in favor of what was trending during the mid-80s, which was hair metal. And yeah, compared to everything previous they did from this album, it's quite tamed. But I've always had such a soft spot for it because I've always looked at this album as like the gayest album within music ever made, because this, you know, it's not an insult what I'm saying, it's just this album is so ungodly infectious. I don't know how you can not sing along to some of these tracks. The song Turbo Lover, that song is so fun to sing along with. It's like you gotta be like death not to want to bob your head to this song. It is so catchy. Other great tracks on here: Private Property, Parental Guidance, Rock You All Around the World, Out in the Cold, Hot for Love. Like, yeah, it sounds like cliche hair metal song titles, but Judas Priest songwriting is still present within this album, and it rules. This album rules. I don't care what anyone says. I love this album. Other than that, I'm pretty sure a lot of you people watch this. Everyone actually who's watching this right now knows about Judas Priest. And the only other thing to bring up is that, yeah, I'm missing quite a lot of their material. I only have 2 records so far on vinyl. And again, the main reason why I don't have a lot of records from really big name bands is because they're always going to keep the previous records by Judas Priest and everything else I'm missing by Judas Priest on vinyl non-stop. So I'm not really in a rush to get them at the moment. But I had to get Turbo because, again, this album is just so ungodly infectious. As for the layout and packaging, this is the 30th year anniversary of it. So you have album artwork, backside with more artwork and track listings. Comes on a standard black vinyl, but it does have a printed inner sleeve with band photo and lyrics on the other side. The only other record I have by Judas Priest is my personal favorite, that being Painkiller, their comeback album that was released in 1990. And this is just boiling red hot, face melting, straight to the point, traditional heavy metal at its peak. For a lot of other people, they kind of consider it like stadium thrash, which is kind of a weird term. Whatever the case, this album is just so impossible not to love. Tracks on here, of course, like Painkiller, Hell Patrol, All Guns Blazing, which just has such an infectious hook to it. And my personal favorite song has always been Nightcrawler. I've always loved the melody within that song. And then you got Between the Hammer and the Anvil, A Touch of Evil. Just literally everything about this album is just perfection within the sense of traditional heavy metal, and you guys should all know it. I mean, how I discovered this, funny enough, was like probably back in like 2010 when I was playing Rock Band 2, and the song, yeah, they had Painkiller, and it starts off with that drum solo, and I remember just being like so in awe that what I was doing for, you know, a video game, and I was like, what the hell is this? I gotta check this band out. They're called Judas Priest. Who's that? Like, well, that's how I discovered Judas Priest with Painkiller. But yeah, you guys should all know this. So I'm basically preaching to the choir and echo chambering with all the compliments I can give it. As for the layout and packaging, you have the very recognizable artwork, backside with the track listings, standard black vinyl, but does come with a printed inner sleeve with lyrics on one side and the artwork again on the other. Alright, now we start the K's within my vinyl collection. First one up is quite the shakeup, as I don't think I've ever talked about this on my channel, because I think I got this a little bit after I started doing these whole vinyl collection parts. So next up is Kælan Mikla with their album Not Efter Nort. Probably saying it wrong because it's all in Icelandic, which, again, nothing new that I always mispronounce something in a different language. But anyway, this right here is like a mixture of no wave, cold wave, post-punk, I guess. Like, I'm not really familiar with these like styles and the genres of cold wave and no wave. I just searched it up and that's what they were tagged under. But something about the Icelandic music scene, regardless of the genre, has always just been so fascinating for a lot of people, I've noticed. And Kælan Mikla is just a very relaxing, surreal, and semi-melancholic blend of post-punk that is just really soothing to the ears, I feel like. And I don't know, the singing by the lead vocalist, she has such a gorgeous voice that complements the melodies really well. And I know they're still active. Actually, they're pretty new. I think they only formed like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And this is easy to get. I got this on their Bandcamp. But if you just really want surreal, blissful post-punk, definitely check these girls out. As for the layout and packaging, however, you have artwork with a bit of spot gloss right there with the album title in the front, which is pretty neat. Backside with the track listings, more gorgeous photography of Iceland. Comes on a standard black vinyl along with an insert sheet with lyrics that also has gorgeous photography of Iceland, which, yeah, it may be an orgy of tourists just taking photos of the scenery, but God, the overall views of Iceland is just too good for words. Oh boy, next up is one of the heavy hitters within German black metal, and that would be Catharsis with their 2006 full-length World Without End. When it comes to German black metal, when you bring that topic up, I can guarantee you a majority of the time this band will always be brought up within the conversation because it is just ass-kicking, insanely intense black metal with no filler, no bullshit, and I need to get more by these guys because at the moment right now this is the only record I have of theirs on vinyl. And I definitely need to get their last record they did, which was released in 2009, which I think is called Fourth Reich, which, by the way, to all the Neanderthals shitting their pants right now thinking that this is an NSBM band, it's not. Because, funny enough and very surprisingly, I think a huge reason as to why this band has been inactive for over a decade is because the vocalist of Katharsis is like a diehard activist for the LGBT. I think he's just been so focused on that aspect with his life that Katharsis has taken a back seat for all these years. So, you know, kind of goes by the saying, don't judge a book by its cover, which a lot of dipshit Neanderthals here on the internet love doing. But anyway, other than that, you guys should all know Katharsis, and if you don't, get very familiar with them because everything they've done is just insanely intense, ass-kicking black metal with just top-of-the-line premium riffs from start to finish. But other than that, I'm pretty sure you can get this at Norma Evangelion Diaboli, I think, along with a lot of other records by them. So go there if you want this. Along with, I'm pretty sure, maybe Hell's Headbangers and Nuclear War Now should carry copies too, hopefully. But yeah, that's the places I usually go to for records like this. Anyway, for the layout and packaging, you have album artwork, backside with the band logo. Once again, it does come on a standard black vinyl, but does have a printed inner sleeve with artwork on one side along with the lyrics for the album on the other. The next couple of records are all by one band that's actually going to take up a majority of this specific part, but I've always been just such a big fan of them. We started off with the debut album by Kauan. Such an incredible band. For a lot of people, they would categorize Kauan as like they make gorgeous doom metal. For me personally, I would state that Kauan just makes gorgeous music, because I don't know exactly what to categorize these guys under. I hear that a lot of people state that, oh, they're a doom metal band with just post-rock tendencies, and I feel like that's really selling their style very short, because it's elements of doom metal, yes, but there's also genres blended here of like neoclassical, folk, ambient, and post-rock that is just so insanely gorgeous, blissful, and melancholic that it's just always soothing. It's one of those bands that I feel like if you have a really stressful day from like a day of work or just life itself, and you get home and you just want to unwind and just forget about life for a second, you put on Kauan, because it is just so soothing and gorgeous. Every record they have done has always been top of the line, and their debut album, which sadly the band themselves cite as like their worst record, as they feel like they kind of rushed a lot of it, I think is absolutely incredible and one of their best records overall, because I can't really pronounce any of these song titles as they're all in Finnish. I know the band themselves is from Russia, I believe, but all of it is just gorgeous. Just check out the album itself. It's meant to be listened to, I feel like, from start to finish, listening to every single interlude track and every main track of, again, doom metal and all the other subgenres blended within it. As to where you can get this, I think Blood Music has done represses for it. I'm not 100% sure, but my best bet would be to go to Blood Music if you want to get this on the LP format. As for the layout and packaging, however, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, comes on a printed inner sleeve with more artwork and credits on the other side, and the LP variant I got is the special edition on blue and white swirl, limited to 150 copies. From there, I have the sophomore album by Kauan, which I cannot pronounce to save my life, so it's that, whatever it translates to or says. And this has always been my least favorite within their discography. It's nothing terrible, but I feel like they put a lot more attention to detail with the doom metal aspect, that you could say that this is their most metal sounding album, that a lot of these tracks just kind of drag out a bit too much for me, and when it transitions to the other styles of music that they play around with, the payoff just doesn't feel that worthy or that, climactic. So I don't know, it's always been my least favorite by them. Still worthy of checking out and getting, along with the fact too that I'm just, a collector scum when it comes to bands that I really enjoy. But this one's really easy to get, because I know this is a repress for a fact that Blood Music did, and it's still available on Blood Music if you want to get this. As for the layout and packaging, you have album artwork, backside with more artwork, comes on a gatefold with all the track listings and credits inside, and just on a double LP, plain black vinyl. Then I have their fourth full-length, Kauan. I'm missing their third full-length, which I would love to own, but it's so difficult to get as it goes for dumb money online, that if you want their take of post-rock, just straight up post-rock, check out their third full-length. But anyway, as for their fourth full-length, I feel like after really going full-blown post-rock, they really got interested in intertwining that style a bit more when they approach it with their metal aspect with Kauan, because there's more of like this tender, sweet, melancholic vibe overall with the production value and the songwriting of it. Along with the fact too that it just feels a bit more progressive, which again kind of tends to sound more of that post-rock style. But yeah, this is where Kauan really starts to flesh out their sound and become their own unique identity within the whole realm of doom metal and just, again, music itself. And I was stoked back, I think, in 2017 when Blood Music put this up for pre-order for the vinyl pressing of it and bought it up right away. So again, I'm pretty sure everything by Kauan except for their latest album you can all get at Blood Music. As for the layout packaging of this record, however, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes with a printed inner sleeve with credits on one side and lyrics on the other. And this vinyl edition comes on cream, limited to 100 copies. Keeping it going within the Kauan discography, I also have their 5th full-length album, that being Hero, which I would say is their best within their whole discography, because while the doom metal and overall metal aspect of their songwriting is probably utilized the least amount, excluding their post-rock albums on Hero, what really takes center stage here is the classical and neo-folk genres they play around with, and it is just so incredibly blissful from start to finish. As this album is actually just one long continuous track that plays on side A and then continues on with side B, and every moment of it is just so gorgeous. I love this album with every moment on it, with the sections of violins and piano and clean singing and guitars and just literally everything else about it, just the ambience, the atmosphere. It's just, there's nothing negative to say about it, because it's just the definition, in my opinion, of what just blissful music should sound like. Kauan hit it out of the park and then some with Hero. That, again, as I stated, I consider it their best. But as for where you can get this, again, as I stated earlier, Blood Music might have copies. I know they did represses, not sure if it's still available, but get them while you can, because this is just a masterpiece of neo-folk and classical music that is just melancholic and blissful as music can come off sounding like. As for the layout and packaging, however, you have album artwork, backside with just more artwork. All this record comes with is obviously the LP, and this variant comes on the black and blue swirl. I believe it's the first press, and it's limited to I think 300 copies. Then I have what is considered their 6th full-length album, and I say considered because really how I look at this, it's more like a compilation, as a majority of the tracks within this album are songs from their first 2 albums, just re-recorded with better production value. Because again, as I stated, Kauan has always looked at their early records as they felt like they were kind of naive and weren't really fleshed out and matured, which personally I feel like they're being very hard on themselves, because everything Kauan has done has always been top notch. But regardless, with this full length, which again I consider a compilation, you get a majority of the tracks from the first 2 albums just re-recorded with a better production value, which is kind of cool. But the first song on here is a new track they did called Unsoi, hopefully I'm saying that right. And they just go straight up death doom with that song, and it is heavy and awesome. And for me personally, I'm going to come off like a fanboy here, the climax for this album, they did a summoning cover of the song Long Lost to Where No Pathway Goes. How the fuck am I gonna pass up on getting a record like this? Kauan doing a cover to Summoning? There is a God. Anyway, as for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Also comes on a gatefold with artwork and credits inside, and just double LP plain black vinyl. And I also have their 7th full-length album, that being Sorny Na. For a lot of people, they would say this is like the fan favorite within their discography, which I can definitely understand why, as the doom metal aspect is kind of brought to the forefront here, and all the other subgenres they play around with kind of come and go, while again the doom metal style that they play around with makes the foundation of the songwriting with this album, and it's just absolutely gorgeous, blissful, very atmospheric and lush doom metal. And what's also interesting about it that a lot of people bring up, is you can kind of tell with the album artwork here, is that it's a concept album, and it all has to do with the hikers that went through the, I believe the Kozlov, I think is the right name for it, mountain region during its winter in 1959. And when they went missing, a few days later, there was a search party out for them, and they discovered their bodies, only that their eyeballs and tongues were ripped out from them. and it's kind of a mystery as to what exactly happened to these hikers to this day, all these decades later. And with the album artwork, which is kind of interesting, is that this is actually the last photo ever taken from them when they were alive, which really interesting overall of a concept and album. But yeah, overall, if you want to get into Kauan, this is one of the better places to start, as the doom metal is really brought forth here. And thankfully, Blood Music did a repress for this last year because it was so difficult to get before the repress. So if you want to get it, go to Blood Music, just like basically everything else I've been talking about within the Kauan discography. As for the layout and packaging, it's very bare bones, however. You just have album artwork, backside with really nothing on it, and just comes on a standard black vinyl. Oh, we are not done yet within the Kauan discography. I also have their 8th full-length album, that being Kaho. This is where they go right back again to just straight up post-rock. No doom metal or death doom. The neoclassical aspect is gone, there's no folk. Really all that's left here is post-rock, ambience, and they kind of bring forth more of like a shoegaze aspect to it that is just very comforting of an album overall, and that's about it. And I don't know, something about the dude's singing really complements the overall lush and tender post-rock melody and just vibe overall with this album. So really good stuff, but really it's only going to appeal to people that like post-rock or just like the die-hard Kauan fans that look for the other styles of music that they play around with. But yeah, got this off of their Bandcamp when they put it up for pre-order, and yeah, that's about that. So I'm not really sure where else would carry copies of Kauho. But as for the layout and packaging, it's really unique because with the album artwork, it's kind of cut right there in the middle of it. And when you take out the sleeves of it, you know, it just kind of goes through like that, which is pretty cool. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes on a gatefold with just more artwork inside. It just comes on a standard black vinyl, but also with all these insert sheets with just more trippy looking artwork here as well, along with the other side with just lyrics for each track. Okay, final record within the Kauan discography until we can move on to the next band is going to be their latest album that was released this year, that being Ice Fleet. Really weird that this album is titled in English Ice Fleet, because I'm pretty sure everything else of their full lengths are titled within either the Finnish or Russian language. So that really surprised me when I found out about this record. And it's actually their first album put out through the new label they're signed to, that being Artifact Records, which from what I've seen from this distro and label, if you're a fan of like post-punk and cold wave music, they have a lot of bands signed to it that play within that style. But this album right here, I would say overall it's just a continuation of what they did with Sorny Na, as it's very metal influenced. The doom metal aspect is at the forefront. There's a lot more harsh vocals utilized within this album, and all the other subgenres are just basically post-rock and ambient post-rock kind of intertwined within the metal aspect of it. So overall, good release. Not my favorite by any means, but another stellar release by Kauan, considering the fact that this is now their, I think, 9th full-length album, and for them to still make music as good as this, I'll give it up to them. But yeah, if you want to get copies of it, go to Artifact Records. As for the layout and packaging, however, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, comes on a gatefold with the lyrics inside. The LP variant I got is on deep blue, limited to 400 copies. Finishing up within this vinyl collection part, and it's only half of the discography of this band, and that would be KFR. The main project done by Max Ducardi, which I've always been quite a fan of his work. I don't know if you guys remember. In my top 25 all-time favorite black metal albums, this was in that list, because I also have the album artwork of it tattooed on me. And it's just basically, at its foundation, raw necro black metal, yes, but the influences really stem from either like the Les Legions Noir and Abruptum. This shit is just nightmare fuel, and it's very intriguing how black metal can go down this very just menacing, dark, ambient route and just make you feel so tormented knowing nothing about the individual other than the music he presents to you. And it's truly a work of art in the darkest ways possible within black metal that I had to get this, because I remember actually how I got this record was I got it in a trade maybe like 4 or 5 years ago from a Facebook friend, and he hooked me up because this is really difficult to get. It's limited to 100 copies. I got number 72 out of 100. And Max Ducardi usually likes to make his records a one and only time pressing, so yeah, when they're gone, and expect to pay like, you know, ridiculous inflated prices online for them. But yeah, KFR, some of the most terrifying black metal that comes to mind within the genre. As for the layout and packaging, however, of this, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes on a gatefold with more artwork. Pretty sure this is the alternative artwork used for the CD pressing of this album, and just comes on double LP plain black vinyl. Second to last for this vinyl collection part is actually the second full length by KFR, that being Necro. For the longest time this was a CD exclusive only pressing, and it wasn't until I believe 2018 it finally got the LP treatment, which I got right away, as it's only limited to 100 copies. And what I've noticed with Max Ducardi with all of his music projects that he does, he's so focused on releasing new music that when it comes to his older material, you know, re-releasing them on a different format is on rare occurrences. So that's why I was so stoked for it. Again, along with the fact that he only does one and only time pressings for each respected format. But Necro, again, is a continuation of the debut album I just showed earlier, Anti. Only, I guess the ambient and electronic and noise sections just feel a bit more harsh sounding. Like he's really putting a lot more attention to detail with the Abruptum worship aspect of it. And it just comes off meaner, in my personal view. Still stellar stuff that, again, if you want just dismal, tormented black metal as it gets, KFR, cannot stress it enough, is like one of the most deranged, demented musical projects I can think of that is out there. Max Ducardi is a mastermind when it comes to this style of music. As for the layout and packaging, however, you have artwork, which once again all done by Max Ducardi himself. Backside with more artwork and track listings. Comes on a standard black vinyl along with an insert sheet with it numbered. I got number 76 out of 100 with all the lyrics and more additional artwork around it. Approaching the last record for this vinyl collection part of part 24 is going to be the two-way split between KFR and Old Burial Temple. The next part will contain the other half of my KFR collection. But yes, this record right here is where Max Ducardi goes just full-blown noise and dark ambient drone. There's really no black metal to be found with this record. As for Old Burial Temple, it's just a really dark and dismal noise project, and that's about it. That, again, it's just like Abruptum worship music at its core that is just very tormented, deranged, dark, and demented. I'll just leave it at that. And I remember getting this when I first started collecting records. I think at this time I maybe only had like a couple dozen vinyl within my collection. And I remember getting this in the mail and just being so amazed that I scored a KFR record. Because again, they're all super limited to like 100 copies each. They're hard to come by, and it was easily at the time the darkest and just scariest sounding record I had within my collection. But yeah, I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but if you truly want like nightmare fuel music, KFR. I'm just going to leave it at that. As for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, again, all done by Max Ducardi. Backside with the track listings. Comes on a standard black vinyl, but does have a printed inner sleeve with more artwork and credits. and the other side is just more additional artwork. Alright guys, that'll do it for this vinyl collection part. Like always, links will be provided to everything I've shown within this video in the description below, and that is that. So like always guys, make sure you guys drink plenty of water to stay hydrated, and have a great day.